Hey everyone, I'm Matt Dolan with Dolan Divorce Lawyers in Connecticut, and today I'm going to explain the things you need to keep an eye out for if you are getting divorced from a Metro North employee or you yourself are a Metro North employee who is getting divorced. So generally speaking, most aspects of the divorce are going to be the same as any other traditional divorce. So child custody, you're going to need to sort that out, child support, whether or not there's any alimony, and then division of assets and debts. So a house, credit card debt, student loan debt, retirement accounts, etc. So all of those things need to be sorted out. However, the specific retirement accounts of a Metro North employee are very different from traditional retirement accounts of employees at most other companies. So normally, the retirement benefits you need to be thinking of are Social Security, so that's the federal government's kind of built-in retirement account, and a 401k. Most pensions used to be common. They're becoming less and less common. Most companies have a 401k or a 403b, which is a similar type of retirement account, where it's an account that holds a specific dollar amount that you contribute or your employer contributes into over the course of your employment, and that is invested into the financial markets, and it either goes up or down depending on how the markets perform. Now, the retirement benefits of a Metro North employee are completely different. So they really have three different categories of retirement benefit. The first is the defined benefit pension. So this is not an account with a specific dollar amount. It is just there are contributions that come out of the employee's paycheck. And then at the time of retirement, they receive X amount of dollars per month, depending on how long they were a Metro North employee and their average salary during their employment. So the years of service, there's certain calculations based on employees who are with the company for less than 20 years, and then another calculation for those between 20 and 30 years, and then another calculation for those who are with the company for over 30 years. We don't need to get into the specifics of that calculation. And then the average salary is based on the highest 3 consecutive years within the 10 years before retirement. So they're not going to look at anything in calculating the average salary. They're not going to look at anything from 10 or more years ago or 10 or more years before retirement. And then you're looking at the highest 3 consecutive years of income. So again, it can't be years 2, 5, and 9. It has to be years 4, 5, and 6, or 6, 7, and 8, etc. So it has to be those 3 consecutive years. So that is the defined pension plan. And again, that is a set dollar amount with cost of living adjustments that are paid out at the time of retirement. Then separate from that, there is the Railroad Retirement Board benefit, and that's a federal program. So within that program, there are Tier 1 benefits and Tier 2 benefits. They're 2 separate categories. So the Tier 1 benefit, it essentially replaces Social Security. So most employees in the United States, there is a withholding that comes out of every paycheck that is paid into Social Security. And when it comes to the time that the person reaches retirement age, they then collect that Social Security benefit. Now, railroad employees do not pay into Social Security, and they do not receive Social Security benefits at the time of retirement. They can collect Social Security if they worked some other job off of the railroad, either before or after their time at Metro North. But they cannot collect Social Security based on their Metro North employment. They instead receive these Tier 1 benefits, which are essentially a replacement for Social Security. Now, one difference between the Tier 1 benefit and Social Security that you need to be aware of in the context of a divorce is that there is no spousal benefit after a divorce. So under Social Security, if you are married for at least 10 years and then you get a divorce, at the time of retirement, the spouse who is the lower income earner can receive a benefit based on the Social Security benefit that the higher income earner earned. So you could essentially, if you never worked, you can receive a Social Security benefit based on the Social Security benefit of your former spouse, so long as you were married for 10 years. That spousal benefit does not exist in the Tier 1 railroad retirement benefit. So that's something you need to be aware of, that, when it comes time to retire, if you are married to and getting divorced from a Metro North employee, you will not receive that spousal benefit. Now, you can, of course, receive your own Social Security benefit if you are working. So this more applies to the individual who is not working. You need to be aware of the fact that you will not receive a spousal benefit based on the Tier 1 benefit. Separate from that is a Tier 2 benefit, and that is really similar to the defined benefit pension plan. It's essentially a separate pension that withholdings come out of the paycheck. And back to that first defined benefit pension, there are withholdings that come out of the employee's paycheck to pay into that pension plan and fund that pension plan. But the Tier 2 benefit is another pension that essentially, at the time of retirement, a set dollar amount will be paid to the employee at the time of retirement. And that, again, depends on years of service and, average salary during employment. Now, depending on how much that Tier 2 benefit is, there can be a reduction of the defined benefit pension at the time of retirement, so that there's not a double dipping situation where the employee is receiving a significant amount from both. So the amount of the Tier 2 benefit can impact that first defined benefit pension plan that we discussed. Now, if you are going through a divorce, all of these retirement benefits can be divided. Well, not all of them. The defined benefit pension plan can be divided, and the Tier 2 benefit can be divided, not the Tier 1. That is a benefit that cannot be divided through divorce via what's called the Qualified Domestic Relations Order. So the defined benefit pension and the Tier 2 benefit, they can be divided through a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. It's called the Quadro for short, QDRO, Quadro. And that is essentially a document that is drafted that says, hey, financial administrator, we got a divorce, my spouse should get a certain percentage of my pension, and there should be no tax consequences for that. It's essentially transfers that a certain portion of that retirement benefit over to the spouse at the time of divorce. It's not necessarily a 50-50. It can be divided in creative ways depending on your divorce negotiation, but something that is commonly done is the portion of the pension, either the Tier 2 or defined benefit pension plan, the portion of that pension that was accumulated during the marriage is divided 50-50, and everything else is separate. So if the railroad employee worked there before the marriage, then that portion is kept separate and remains the sole benefit of the employee. And likewise, if they continue to work at Metro North after the divorce, then that retirement benefit after remains that person's benefit. So that the amount or percentage of the overall pension that the non-railroad spouse receives would be calculated at the time that the benefit is collected, looking at the number of years they worked prior to the marriage or the number of years they worked after the marriage. So that's traditionally how those pensions are divided up. And similarly, normally if the railroad spouse is giving up half of their pension that was accumulated during the marriage, they would likewise probably receive half of the other employees, but the other spouse, the non-railroad employees' retirement benefits, whether they have a 401k or 403b, etc., they would presumably also receive 50% of the other spouse's marital benefit. So then there are also some other pension, there can be early retirement benefits for those who work at least 10 years at Metro North and have reached 55 years of age, and there can also be disability benefits for those who have become disabled while they work at Metro North, so long as they have been there for at least 10 years. So those are the basics of what you need to keep an eye out for if you are a Metro North employee going through a divorce, or you're married to a Metro North employee going through a divorce. It's really those retirement benefits that you need to be looking at carefully and have an understanding of. So as usual, if you have any other questions, you should feel free to contact our office. And if you are a Metro North employee yourself or married to one and you are looking for representation in a divorce case, we would invite you to contact our office as well.